Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, presented by Gate City Bank, back in our palatial studios after the last couple we had to do via Zoom. We're back. I can see you. You can see me.
Is that necessarily a good thing
Absolutely.
or a bad thing?
I always like to see your facial reactions when I say something that you completely disagree with. It's one of the highlights of
that
my
never
day.
happens.
We got some news right off the hop here, Kolpack, to start as we get set for another weekend of FCS football, and again, another reality check of what exactly we're dealing with in trying to play a football season in the middle of a pandemic. University of North Dakota announcing that its game with Youngstown State, set for tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., will not happen because of a positive COVID-19 test among the Tier 1 personnel. That would encompass the coaches or the players or staff, which means the game will not happen tomorrow. It now moves to that last weekend that the Valley opened up, Saturday, April 17th. The game has been rescheduled for. Just give me your initial thoughts on this.
Not surprised, of course. You get a little hardened, I think, to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I say that because most people I know, Dom, have either been vaccinated or on their way to get vaccinated or between the two shots or have had the one and done. So you get a little lackadaisical, I think, at times when people our age, are going through the vaccination process.
Right. Or
it's not over. Is what
right. I was going to say
point.
It's over. They think it's over and done with, and it's clearly not. I mean, we've had how many instances now over the last week where VCU couldn't play in the men's basketball tournament. Notre Dame just had to pull out of the hockey tournament, and now with this is the first instance in the Dakotas, at least on North Dakota. South Dakota had it happen for its first game. Now to have this happen with UND or NDSU,
and now with UND hockey, Brad Berry's just got to be holding his breath.
Yep, absolutely.
Their NCAA title dreams can come crashing down in an instant.
There's no doubt they're getting tested again today to get ready for their game tonight that they play at Shields Arena in Fargo. This is quite the deal for UND. This is now 2 games off its schedule that they've lost in the last 7 days. Now, they're going to get the Youngstown State game back. Illinois State ain't coming back. The Redbirds obviously made that announcement on Sunday night. That was who UND was scheduled to end the season with. That is now, I guess maybe if you're Bubba Schweigert now, you get a chance to play theoretically before the playoffs start, because we were talking about this. Had the season gone to normal, UND would have gone 3 weeks without a football game.
Yeah, and is that such a bad thing?
Maybe it's
I guess.
Not. Yeah.
Sometimes I think some of these coaches with the spring ball, maybe 8 games was too much. Maybe the CAA had it right with
the Big
6.
Sky had it right when they were doing 6.
Or 6.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you want.
Well, and I referenced that with Illinois State saying we've had enough.
Yeah,
it's been enough. We're looking forward to the fall. We can't go ahead. We're out of the playoffs. Charles Woods, I believe, transfer portal to SMU. Heard that today.
Yep.
Who else is going? We'll see. God, they have been decimated.
It's interesting, and I guess I'm pleasantly surprised, Kolpack, that there wasn't a lot of, outside of fan pushback, there wasn't, at least from what I heard team-wise, a lot of pushback on Illinois State. I think everybody understands they got to do what you got to do. And I'm glad to see there wasn't any shaming of what Illinois State decided to do.
I'm surprised that nobody else has really followed suit. Again, we mentioned last week that after Illinois State pulled the plug, what about Northern Iowa? The Panthers are out of the playoffs. They have 3 losses. They're going nowhere. What's the point of continuing?
Mm-hmm.
And we predicted this would happen at some point halfway through the spring season. Who's in, who's out now?
Well, we still got 90 some odd that are still in, and that's surprising, I guess, to me. We've also passed the threshold that Patty Viverito told us that they needed to have more than half of the team still playing, to have the playoffs happen, and not to have the field reduced again, the playoff field reduced. So it'll be a 16-team bracket beginning April 24th. That is going to happen one way or the other.
And the worst part of that is we have to listen to your bracketology now between...
Oh, come on, Kolpack.
Oh, jeez.
What was the matter with it? Did you have some glaring issues with issue number 1?
Oh, you're assuming I pay attention to it?
You tweeted it out, so I'm assuming you just
busted.
You just linked it and just didn't even look at it. That's fine.
No, I don't. No real problems. NDSU, you have them as the
number
auto
1. I have as the
after last week. It's going to come down to the Bison Jacks game.
Absolutely, it will be, and that I want to start there because obviously we'll chat about the game this coming tomorrow with South Dakota. But what South Dakota State did to Southern Illinois was just a whooping.
Mind-boggling.
Wasn't it? without Pierre Strong.
How
didn't play.
how does this happen where Southern Illinois just torches NDSU
Yep.
and then comes back and just gets torched by South Dakota State?
Now,
How does that happen?
they were down corrected their third quarterback, right? SIU was. Now, I know he doesn't play defense,
Well, that's
but
my point.
that the part was just Isaiah Davis, who is not the starting running back, goes for 150 and 3 in that game. Gronowski only had to throw it 11 times for 63 yards for South Dakota State to win the game.
Just chalk it up to the spring season, the coronavirus pandemic / what we're in right now. I don't know how it's this would not happen in the fall. You would not get a team like NDSU get boat race like they did, and then Southern Illinois, which did the boat racing, come back
And
like
they
a
get
month
blown
later,
out.
just get destroyed.
And they've been blown out twice now. UND got them
Are
to
they
start
out?
the season.
Are they out of
I don't have them in right now. They are squarely on the bubble because of who was ahead of them. Because I would put, you have to take NDSU, you have to take South Dakota State, and you have to take UND because UND beat SIU. That's my rationale of the three teams that get in.
As we see it right now, I think you're right.
And I think we talked about this when we got ready to start the spring season. Having more than two teams from one league was a controversial opinion, but I think as to how things have played out, I think the Valley gets 3. I do. I think that's how it's going to go here over the next couple weeks. I don't think anything's going to change on that.
And it's part of that because the CAA isn't playing as many games.
I think it's watered down a bit on that front. I think the Big Sky has just one team. Whoever wins the auto bid, I think it's going to be Weber that's going to make it into the playoffs from there.
So we're conflicting ourselves when I said 5 minutes ago that the Valley maybe had it wrong playing too many games, yet by playing 8, they may get more teams in the playoffs.
Right. Exactly on that front.
So pick your poison here.
It's the part that's
do
really...
Do you want to play fewer games and hope you're healthier in the fall? Or do you want to play more games and increase your chances to get in the playoffs?
And here's also, it is an opportunity for schools that have been doormats that welcome the opportunity to make it. VMI is having an all-time year. Rhode Island has a chance to make the FCS playoffs. These are schools we never have thought about that have a chance to make it into the tournament. They love it. They love this spring season.
If the Bison lose one more game, are they out?
No, I think they gave them the wiggle room with that. That's why the UND game was so big, because I think still 7-2 gets them in. So if they were to get tripped up by South Dakota State,
but they may hit the road. We may be in VMI. Where is VMI?
Somewhere. It's Virginia.
Oh, I know, but where?
Oh, you're going to ask me on that off the top of my head. I don't know.
Oh, great! 18, great FCS mind.
18 schools in Virginia. You got the wrong guy. Zach Staten has been doing it. He'll know right away.
A friend of mine,
Lexington, Virginia is where they are.
A friend of mine last week,
Thanks, Google,
for just something to do. We write down as many Division I schools in Texas as you can think of.
How many did you get?
Got to 20.
Is that all of them?
I'm not sure.
It's pretty close, right? They got it. That's an exercise we could have on the plane on the way down to Vermillion tomorrow. But that's exactly on that front. But to just wrap up that point, that's why the spring for those schools, let's play it out because they have a chance for something they never could experience in the fall. Whoever thought that VMI would have a chance to win the SoCon?
How many people out there really knew that VMI was an FCS school
or played football?
Yeah,
I think they probably know they play basketball.
If I say FCS, it'd be football.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm saying how many people even knew they played football to begin with? You know what I mean? That they've just been irrelevant at this level. So they want to play. They want to see how it comes out. Jacksonville State, Kolpack, look at them. 7-1. They played, I know, those 4 games in the fall. They've got an FBS win. You look at their resume. They run the table. They've got as good a resume as anybody that they could be the number 1 overall seed if they win the Ohio
FBS win.
Correct. Because we're told that the wins from the fall count towards your resume for the spring.
Equally?
That I don't know. And I'm hopeful we'll get an answer on this week, but I bet you not. I bet you they are not considered that because the teams are so – NDSU is a completely different team from the fall than they are to the spring team. So that win over Central Arkansas can't be viewed the same. SIU, the same way for their win over SEMO in October.
I can see a scenario where it'd be a tiebreaker of sorts.
Yep.
Say NDSU and UND have the same resume, then you go, okay, what's after that? They have a fall win over a ranked Central Arkansas.
Correct. That would get them in. That's why I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen here over the next few weeks. But I'm still on the train there that 3 Valley teams are going to make it into the postseason beginning when we see the field on April 18th is Selection Sunday. 10:30 a.m. On ESPNU is when the field will be unveiled. Let's chat here about this game. South Dakota, 3 straight losses. The Coyotes won the opener with Illinois State. Then they've lost their last 3, and they've got the bear of their schedule to come, Jeff, starting tomorrow with North Dakota State. Obviously, Northern Iowa, a short week there. Northern Iowa comes in on Friday, and then South Dakota State after that. This is a really young football team for Bob Nielsen.
Yeah, rushed for 12 yards, all of 12 yards last week.
Yikes.
And how's that going to fare against NDSU, which is better against the run defensively, just generally better defensively overall?
Against Youngstown State, they ran for 12 yards.
And you could go back. Why are the Coyotes continuing to play? Is it a recruiting thing? They don't want to. They don't want to opt out
right there
because they're going head to head with South Dakota State.
I think if we were to give Bob Nielsen tomorrow off camera, I think he'd say we need the reps. I think they're okay with doing that. They've got such a young team that we want to play as often as we can.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I think that's probably, if you were to get the truth serum in here, we want to play. We maybe don't want to play North Dakota State or South Dakota State, but we can match up. Let's play Youngstown. Let's play Mo State and get as many reps as we can.
I'll give you another scenario. Why is Kai Henry not in the transfer portal and playing somewhere next fall?
But I don't think there's any reason why not to think that.
If he wants NFL aspirations.
Yep. I think there's no reason why not to think that. But how things are materializing right now on the basketball side of things in the portal,
could it be there's loyalty? I mean, maybe he's loyal to the program.
Maybe that'd be
unheard of these days.
Knock me over with a feather on that one if that actually is the case. They are starting a freshman at quarterback. Another team doing that. Carson Camp is the guy who's leading the way for South Dakota, joining the litany of guys that are freshmen that are quarterbacking Missouri Valley teams. This is Nielsen knew exactly what he was getting himself into with turning things over at USD, and it's now about finding who can mature quick enough to get on the field.
I'm looking forward to seeing the USD renovations in the Dakota Dome. I think because Fargo Dome needs to do something. So I'm curious to see, not that they need to do what USD is doing.
Now, granted, this building is 20 years older than the Fargo Dome, but it needed
and that's what I mean.
You've been down there many more times than I have.
They total overhauled one whole side.
Yeah.
The Fargo Dome doesn't need that, but the Fargo Dome does need to swank it up for sure. And
they've done suites down there. That's what I'm really interested to see on the far side at South Dakota is they put suites in there, Kolpack, which I know that's something you've written about over the last few years about maybe the addition of that at the Dome.
Well, the Dome has suites, but and some have been renovated at the Fargo Dome, but they need to do them all. But they need to renovate the concourse. It'd be nice if they did the convention hall space to the south.
Yep.
It'd be nice if they. It just needs an overall overhaul. HGTV.
The fans always ask about getting the green and yellow seats at the Dome, getting rid of the color seats. That always gets brought up on our live chats, it seems like, anytime we talk about it.
The blue and red is dated.
Yep. They've done everything else.
I know Rob Solbuck says the seats are fine. I'm saying, okay, then get some spray paint.
Or something.
They've
done everything else. Improved the lighting.
Yep.
They've improved sound in there.
Yes.
They've improved the video boards in there.
That was not cheap.
No, those were a lot of money on that.
But you have to continue to move forward.
South Dakota needed this. I mean, how many times have we gone there in the Division I era and heard the ringing lights above us, or just the aesthetic of the Dome itself? It looks like a 45-year-old building, which it is.
And we've been in the back. We've come in the back way through the media area because I think we've done some video stuff back there. And you're going, okay, where are the rats? It's just like,
well, look, think of this. Remember the first year we went down there before the basketball building was built on. For the press conference, we were in an old classroom for that. And this is not Division I. I mean, we're stuck in a classroom doing a post-game press conference, and that was not ideal. And that was the infamous Joe Glenn looking at Nick DeLuca press conference there.
That's how they make them.
Yeah.
Well, there's another Fargo Dome. The press box, the coaches' booths, I mean, they're all Division II.
Yep.
Those coaches' booths are small.
What USD did with the basketball arena is what Fargo needed to do here. I've said that numerous times, and you're right. I am interested to see how that looks on the far side, because apparently the side where the cameras are, where you're going to be positioned, nothing has changed on that side. That's still the same. But David Herbster wanted to do that, and that's a lot of money. He also built an outdoor practice facility as well, turf practice facility that's right next to the Dome.
South Dakota has money.
Yep.
South Dakota has money. It's the medical, the law school. It's the UND of South Dakota, correct?
Yes.
And it's particularly the medical school.
And the onus on now is to find some players to come there. They've had it. They've had some good guys come through there that haven't stayed. The Van Ginkel kid, how good was he? Obviously, he went on and played at Iowa, and he was a stud. Wisconsin, he was on there and was a stud for the Badgers for the last couple of years. That's another guy. How do you get him to stay? How do you get a kid like that to stay to want to play and finish out there?
Especially now when it's almost trendy to go into the portal.
I'll get to that in a second.
You know what we need to do, and I'm going to do this over the course of the next year, is track this portal stuff. Okay, they tweet it out, and they say we're going to the portal. Then people sort of forget about it.
For the most part, I mean, there are headline guys we'll follow. You know, I want to see where Philip Obracha ends up going, the UND basketball standout.
Okay, there's 3 starters leaving.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second here before I want to wrap up our football chat. But yeah, I am curious on that front. Are the Bison back after what we saw with Hunter Lupke running the football like the way he did on Saturday?
No, and that question was asked of Matt Entz, and he said no too. There's still too many questions. They're not great at quarterback. You can't be back until you're good at quarterback.
I agree.
I'm not saying you have to be an NFL first-round draft choice,
there.
But you got to be pretty solid. So, no, they're not back there. Injuries, do we know about Kobe Johnson? No, we don't. Hunter Lupke now has burst on the scene as I think that guy could be the most unique running back in Bison football history.
Wow. What makes you say that?
Sheer size. And he's pretty fast.
And speed. You know,
have you ever seen a Bison running back at 245?
What was Roll? That is
230?
Okay.
225?
Tyler can move too. And that was always the deceptive part about Roll is he could
came here as a
run.
fullback.
Right, and he could run though. I mean, him running away from Gopher defenders at the Metrodome is etched in my mind on how he did there. That's it.
Hunter is just sheer power.
How about that take
too.
from Kolpack? Wow, coming in hot. How much he brings to the team though. I'm
not saying the best running. I'm saying the most unique running back in Bison football history. Chad Stark was pretty unique.
Yeah, Stark was good.
For his day, he was pretty big.
Crockett was pretty good. He was big too. He wasn't a small guy, Crockett.
Yeah, but he wasn't 245.
No, he wasn't small either, though. He was tall. That what he did on that first carry of the game, that 55-yarder, that was a statement. And then it kept on going. 58 some odd times NDSU decides to run the football on Saturday.
28 carries without losing a yard, and he really wasn't close to losing a yard.
Now, do we see 58 carries again tomorrow against South Dakota?
No, because that was asked of Entz, and he said, we'll manage our carries.
Yeah. I can't imagine that they pounded.
And he said Lupke was fresh. He hadn't carried the ball since Central Arkansas, so you get that. And it was more of a necessity. It's like Trey Lance against JMU in the title game. They had to run him because that was their best way. And so you pick your games where you need to show your cards, so to speak.
What I am interested is now up front to see Gray Zabel, true freshman up there, starting at right guard. And he was good, Kolpack. I don't think he's given that spot up. Even if if Zach Kubas is healthy, I think we're seeing the Pierre kid from now on, that's his spot.
Yep. And he could be a 5-year player here.
I agree. The hype around him, and you saw him play baseball. And you talked to me about that when he committed. Said, boy, he's a heck of a baseball. He's an unbelievable athlete,
and
period.
He played center field, and he was a pitcher, and he's put on 40 pounds since then. But he was a big dude at center field and could move. And I'm going, okay, he's going to be the offensive tackle we thought when he was recruited.
Yep.
I guess I'm not seeing. They're going to have to put some beef on it. I didn't think there's no way he'd play this soon.
Well, honestly, the last freshman was Billy Turner, right? Of all the research I can remember, true freshman offensive lineman.
I thought Big E found somebody else in that.
I have to double check. I thought it was Turner was the last one. At least it comes to mind. I'll have to double check too of true freshman offensive lineman. Zach Johnson.
Yeah,
Zach Johnson did. That's right. He played. So those two were pretty good. Zach Johnson debuted, if I remember right, in 2013, 2012, when he got thrown into the mix. But those two are pretty, and that's it. That's the list.
What's that tell you?
Right. That tells you how hard it is to do it. It looks like they found the formula, though, up front. After mixing and matching a little bit, putting Cordell back at right side.
And we go back to that Southern Illinois game.
Yeah.
We go back to the game where they just couldn't move Southern Illinois.
Yep.
And you go to UND, which has been really good defensively,
Correct.
and they move. It's like, what's the difference here? They just get stronger in a month?
I think
better technique,
as an
confidence,
as an NDSU,
all the above.
Yes to all those. And as typical as NDSU does, they get better as the season goes along, and that's certainly been the case since that Youngstown State game. Now, that's not been the case, at least in my mind, at quarterback. Quarterback is still having the same issues. Zeb Nolan is still turning the ball over way too much. Now, the end of the half plays, though, are electric, Kolpack. That's now 3 times where they scored a touchdown.
Kind of lucky. I mean, let's not get all over ourselves.
But it's happened, though. It's crazy.
They're more aggressive than Chris Kleiman ever was. Matt Ants is much more aggressive at the end of half. Instead of when you're on your 20, your own 30-yard line, and saying, okay, let's run it.
Yeah.
No, they're going, okay, we got Christian Watson on the outside. Throw the ball up to the 6 foot. Is he 3 or 4?
3, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's 4, but let's throw it up to our athletic 6'3" professional possible prospect here. Why not?
What have you seen out of Zeb? I have not been there in person. I'm watching on TV, so you've seen it over the last 4 weeks. Has there been any improvement over the last 4 games that you've seen?
Very little, I think. I haven't seen it. And Matt Entz said that he needs to relax and take a deep breath. I'm not sure what that tells you, if he's good in practice. And
you intimated at that maybe he's a great practice player and it's not showing up on game day.
Maybe. I mean, we don't see practice, but that's possible.
Do we still see Cam Miller again then? Does this rotation
If he's
continue?
healthy now, did he hurt his hand? But apparently he's back. So, yeah, of course you do. You have to.
But Ed said he don't like playing 2 quarterbacks. Is he just saying that to appease us right now?
I don't like looking at you all the time either. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Hey, you've been without me the last 4 weeks there, buddy boy.
Yeah.
So you better saddle up. I just, that strikes me as odd if they're going to continue to play 2 guys at quarterback. That's something you just don't see where a lot of teams having success at.
You don't want to, but I think you have to. You got to continue to develop Cam Miller, because maybe he'll be the guy in the playoffs if he's got enough experience. He's no longer really a true freshman.
Is of your opinion that Zeb Nolan is not the quarterback in the fall of 2021?
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. Well, and I haven't seen Quincy Patterson play, and I'm just assuming that under Randy Hedberg that he'll improve a couple things that he needs to improve. Yeah. But I would think
they're probably going to move on that. Or Zeb will say, okay, well, the writing's on the wall, and I've had my opportunity, and move on. We'll see. I'm really. That's why the next 3 games are really going to be interesting.
Let's get back to the basketball before we wrap up here.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I want to mention on the defense what they've seen there, where Dom Jones on the back end. You talk about not a freshman anymore. Last couple games, he's had 2 really, really nice picks.
So right before this, Trey Dempsey's Moving Mountains business moved a big piece of furniture in my mother-in-law's, and so I was talking. Yeah,
that's great.
Trey, he's fast. He's strong, man. I'm telling you, that thing was not light.
Not light.
So anyway, I said, yeah, I saw where Coach Entz, and he goes, yeah, Dom Jones. He goes, yeah, he's me, but he's only 6'3", meaning it's a good thing.
Yeah,
he's me, but he's 6'3".
Right.
So
he's got about 4 inches on Trey, I'd imagine. So, and he was. Remember how good he got at the end of his career. He was the lockdown guy on the back end, and we're seeing that out of Dom Jones. I mean, he's got that ability. I know he got burned early on in the season, and I don't know if Dawson Weber's going to play it all during the spring, but it looks like that they've got a reliable guy on the back end now.
In the fall 2019, I saw Randy Hedberg outside the Bison locker room before practice, and Dom Jones was just kind of hanging out there as a true freshman. And he goes, look at that guy. Yeah. See that guy? Look at him. I go, yeah. He goes, look out. Meaning his athleticism, his ability, kind of a recruiting steal, if you will.
Yeah. I think you're going to see a lot of young guys on defense, because I'm not sure if Jackson Hankey's going to play. That might be Luke Wirtz's time. And that's ironic because, remember, in 2014 in Vermillion, Travis Beck could not play that day, and Nick DeLuca made his first start, and the rest is history after that. We may see that. I'm not saying Luke Wirtz is Nick DeLuca, but you wrote about this, and I talked about it many times. This is the highest offered player that the Bison have ever got. It was Luke Wirtz.
He had the most FBS offers, and
more than Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Kansas State offered Luke Wirtz flat out.
And again, maybe sometimes the guy's okay in practice, and he's a game player. That's the feeling I got last week. They were happy with the way he played in the second half.
Wirtz played. You remember he played all 16 games as a freshman in 2019. So I think he's the real deal. And you how many times you've told me how long it takes to learn this defense? He's now 2 years into it.
And how good for Jackson if Luke Wirtz is developed enough where he can play a lot. So
right, he doesn't have to.
If you're Jackson, you don't want to play every down.
No. Nope.
And he's mentioned that as such. He said that last fall. He goes, I don't know about this.
Yep.
And he since changed his mind, but now that you're in the moment, of course you're going to change. But it would be good for Jackson Hankey for his senior season if he was able to share time at middle linebacker.
I agree. And it'd be good for the Bison going forward if Luke Wirtz is the guy, the heir apparent, because remember, he's got an extra year now built in with this year not counting. Kolpack mentioned it, and obviously it's been the major story here in North Dakota over this week is about the NCAA Transfer Portal. I did a commentary about it earlier this week where now the University of North Dakota men's basketball team has lost 3 starters. The women's basketball team in Grand Forks lost of one of its starters, Miss Basketball winner from Mandan, in Megan Zander. This is only going to go up as we go forward. Obviously, with the one-time transfer rule that's coming is going to totally change that as well. I'll let you tee off. Seems like you're ready to say something.
UND
here.
is just going to have to,
start over.
Well, you go to the transfer portal, okay? They have to, right? I mean,
absolutely.
There's plenty of players out there.
900 basketball players right now. 900, Kolpack. That's the number. And it's went up by 700 players since March 1st. I mean, there's not that many spots.
And again, what comes around goes around. So you lose these 3. There's going to be 3 players out there looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to your point, how many of these guys are going to go? They're not all like Parker Fox, the Northern State standout, who's going to go beyond the Summit League. He's going to go to a Big Ten. He's going to go to a Power 5
I predict
school.
the Gophers.
Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't he go there? And I'm going to pick on Odell Wilson here. Odell Wilson's not going to Minnesota. If he wants to keep playing basketball, it's going to be either the Northern Sun or the MIAC, I would imagine.
In playing time, NDSU, the 3 guys they lost to the portal all cited playing time as their major issue, and that's true.
I'm curious about Iheanacho, Sims, and Rebraca. Now, we know Rebraca. Rebraca was a straight-up education deal that they didn't have his graduate program at UND. He's going to move on. I don't know. Iheanacho was the freshman of the year in the Summit League.
So you take that honor and are you going higher?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Down here, how high is the question? And that's where I'd like to know. But most of these guys, to your point, and what I was saying as well, are not going to be going beyond the Summit League, right? That's just not how it's worked out here.
And what I said 10 minutes ago, I like to track what happens to these guys over a year or 2 period. Does a transfer portal, does it really work?
How often it not has
do
it
you
worked?
find the greener pasture?
I'd say probably less than half.
And what's the percentage of the greener pasture? That's to be more specific.
I'd say it's probably less than half on that front. And to localize this here to Bison fans who listen to this, if I'm David Richmond, I'm living at Grant Nelson's dorm right now or house and making sure that, are you committed? We're making sure, hey, I'm with you. I'm the one who found you. This is how it's going to work. Because you'd be naive to think, Jeff, that the Big Ten and the Big 12 aren't calling and say, hey, we saw you play. We think you can do it at the next level.
We saw a couple of your dunks.
Right? That's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. It sucks, I know, for fans of these mid-major programs, but this is how it's going to go. And it ain't going anywhere. And if I'm Dave Richmond, I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking in the portal saying, oh, we got a guy here from Dayton, or we got a guy here from, give me a school, Wichita State. He can come play here. We can use him. That's exactly how it's going to work.
The hard part is it risks the old culture thing you try to establish that, and that's how they recruit. NDSU football, what are they at, 3 or 4 now?
4.
4? They're not getting guys who got cut from their teams or kicked off here. They're not getting those type of guys. Gabe Lloyd is a senior. His dad went here. His mom's from Fargo.
And he's a grad transfer. Yep.
He's a grad transfer.
Tamarick Williams is a guy who can
crowded backfield,
can run the ball from SMU. You can come here and add on to a team here.
There was no carries at SMU. Crowded backfield. Who's it? Then the lineman from San Diego who got an offer.
Yep.
Oh, here's a guy who San Diego's a pretty good school.
All-conference Pioneer League player.
Yep. He didn't get booted off and has a couple rap sheet problems.
Obviously, Quincy Patterson, you talked about earlier, coming from Virginia Tech, who started for the Hokies this past fall. So, I mean, these are guys that
I think
can play.
He wants to come here and be a better thrower, and Randy Hedberg's reputation is produced a couple first-round
quarterbacks, right? Then that's the way to go. So you're naive to think that NDSU is not going to do this because they already have started it, and it's not going anywhere.
Ed said they would.
You're right. We have to.
He said that in January.
He said we have to do this to make sure to account for the players that they had lost, either for moving on to the next level or moving on with their lives. That's how they've had to replenish their roster. it's free agency, Kolpack. We have talked about this for how long, and now it's come. And I know for yourself, who've covered college athletics all your life, I know it's distasteful for you, but this is now reality. It's 2021. This is where it's going to go now. And it's only going to get crazier from here.
I suppose.
Grit your teeth, but this is how it's going to be. I mean, it's literally re-recruiting your own team every single year. Whether it's football or basketball, that's what you're going to have to do.
And it changes the way you coach, too.
Absolutely.
Do you want to put Grant Nelson in the doghouse?
I don't know. That's a good call on that. I'm not sure. You want to do a couple picks here before we go of games that are left? There's not many on the schedule now.
Let's do it.
All right.
Scarface.
Let's do it. We got Northern Iowa at Western Illinois. Panthers are a 5-point favorite.
I told you
game.
I'm never picking Western Illinois for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so you're all on UNI for that game. How about this game is really intriguing. SIU at Missouri State. SIU's a 10-point favorite. The Bears just won in Cedar Falls last weekend.
And the Bears are 3-1 in the league, right?
Yes, they are.
Are they for real?
I think they may be.
As SIU cashed it in.
I'm not sure on that yet.
I'm taking SIU.
I'm going Mo State.
Okay.
I like Mo State on the road for this game coming up tomorrow. Let's do one last CAA game here before we go because it's the only ranked game of the weekend. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Delaware at Rhode Island. Rhodey's unbeaten. Delaware's unbeaten.
End of the road for the Roadies. Delaware still has a lot to play for.
Delaware's got a lot to play for. I have them in my bracketology. They're a 10-point favorite going on the road to Kingston, Rhode Island for that game on Saturday. Reminder, our Bison pregame show is live tomorrow at 11 a.m. on WDAY Extra in Vermilion to get you ready for the Bison and the Yotes. Our live game blog chat will begin at noon or 12:30 with kickoff at 1 o'clock tomorrow inside the Dakota Dome with a 1 o'clock kickoff. And then Jeff, Mike McFeely, myself back to wrap things up on our postgame show, which you can check out at Inforum.com. I know you missed me, so I'm sure you're really eager to see me for a full day tomorrow.
Yeah, just it's going to be such a blast. No, it is. Good to have you back, man.
I appreciate it.
Nice job on the high school stuff.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
It's a lot of work, and people don't understand what all goes into it, but it's a job well done.
I appreciate that, my man. We're looking forward to tomorrow. Of course, you can check us all out, WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.